I'm Lexy Davis, a love embodiment coach who helps people create a love that feels like home, and I'm here to bring more romance and playfulness into the world. I'm also an international retreat host, vibe curator, and human connector. I serve people through my business, Alive to Enjoy, and this podcast where I invite guests from around the world to sprinkle their wisdom and expand your perspective so you can create the deepest love you possibly can reach in this lifetime. I also want you to live the most joyous life, whatever that looks like to you, and I hope that this slice of the internet brings you lots of smiles and helps you keep your heart open. Thank you for choosing Heart Snuggles to be in your ears each week, and I'm so glad you're here with me. Welcome, Heart Snugglers. We hope you're feeling full of love today, and I'm really excited to share a new special guest with you guys who is a beautiful goddess creating an amazing movement in this world, and so excited for everyone to experience it. So go ahead, Maria, and share a little bit about you.
Hi, Lexi. Thank you so much for having me. And I just thrilled to be on, and thank you for the listeners for tuning in. Yes, I am a CEO and founder of Gaia Goddess, which is a global online and in-person female empowerment community. And I'm very committed to bringing tools to women, resources, tools, education to women so that they can empower themselves. Because inside, I really believe and know that we are all our own healers, that we don't need gurus in this modern day. And so, but in my own dark night of the soul journey, which if those listeners don't know what dark night of the soul is, it's when basically everything comes up, painful trauma, even, if you believe in past life, even some of that, where you're clearing these karmic patterns and stepping more and more into the light that you be and the love that you be. And so I had a very painful, agonizing, long journey. And through that, had to look for tools and people and support. And I did it alone. And I honestly just knew that I had to create something for those that would also do the work and be doing the work. And it's, who knows how long it lasts, and are you ever really done? I don't know. But all I will tell you is it's not comfortable. It's not easy, but it's well worth it, because you can literally rewrite your history. You can rewrite not so much your history, but even that, maybe you basically create your life, and you embody more and more of your magical gifts and power so that you can have the life of your dreams, and so that you can feel totally worthy and loved. And that's what Gaia Goddess is about. That's what I'm about. I have a feeling, Lexi, that's what you're about. And so, yeah, that's what Gaia Goddess, and that's what I'm doing with this brand and with this business.
So beautiful, and it's so important. And yeah, the loneliness is not the vibe to move through these things. So I'm really grateful that you've created such a amazing subscription, but we'll get into that in a moment. So the first question of the podcast is, what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
Oh, gee, I'm so used to doing it for other people. That's a hard question. Oh my goodness. Okay. My somebody that I work with, and a friend who's been spending time at my house, bought all this counterfeit money that they use on movie props, because we played a money game, a manifestation money game for my business. And he was reluctant to play, but he played along. And once he dropped out of his head and I said, "This is play," he got so excited that he told me to shut my eyes and put my hands out. And he dumped like stacks of hundreds in my arms. And, of course I can't, it's not real money. But I think to me, it was sort of like, wow, I acknowledge what we just did and how much fun it was. And I got this so we can have some more fun and play together.
That is so much fun. And I love that he surrendered and was like, okay, I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And just feeling that experience of like money falling into your hands, that's a good vibe. It's a good vibe. Amazing. And the second question is, what is a shameful memory you have around sex or love?
Well, when I was younger, my father died at a very young age, and I had experienced some sexual abuse. And there's shame around that. And that experience created more of allowing men to take advantage of me sexually and thinking that sex was love. And so I, at 16, had an affair with a much older man who had convinced me he loved me.
Mm,
And I knew what I was doing was wrong. Well, it just was out of alignment with worth, but I had no worth.
yeah.
So that was definitely, and there's been so much around. I think women experience a lot of shame through their sexual expression or things that have been inflicted upon them sexually.
A lot. Yeah, I've definitely in my own life and almost every woman I meet, there's been lots of shame in that area. So, well, that can segue us into this. So, how have you moved through these? Sounds like pretty huge things you've been through.
Oh, well, I had no idea that most of what I call the dark night of the soul, the things from the past, from my history, the way I identified as, were there, most of them. I had repressed every memory of my father, who was abusive. And when I say abusive, he'd beat us with a belt, but not from discipline, from rage. And
Mm,
that was very scary for me as a little girl. And I learned to be afraid of men.
mm,
And so much so that when my husband at the time would talk to me about a credit card bill, and I'm not a big spender, but it was almost like an interrogation, I would have these massive sweat rings under my arms. And I was responding from that little girl who had been in fear of a man.
mhm,
And so there was an unraveling of my history, and even things that I thought were fine that were not. And I think it really started in the pandemic. Well, it started with my mother's death 9 years ago, but really started like overwhelmingly coming up in waves that I could not even control when I asked God. And I never spoke to God before, or creator, universal source, whatever you want to call this all-knowing, loving consciousness that we all are part of. I was enraged most of my life at that
mhm,
creator, because I thought that creator had allowed things happen to me, had taken my father away in the plane crash, had done things. And I learned to ask for help, which was never easy, because I had to be safe and in control and not ask for help and do everything myself to feel safe in the world. And when I asked to see all my resentments, because somebody asked me and I'm like, oh, I think I've healed them all. I'm pretty sure I'm good. And then I'm like, well, if you were so good, why are you drinking a bottle of wine a night in the pandemic by yourself in a house you just bought? I mean, you're medicating something,
mhm,
and you better get it under control. And so I literally asked, and I wrote on some things, and they started coming up. And then or I'd meditate and use a lot of breath work, and I'd see things. And then I'm like, oh my God, my amazing mother, who was such a beautiful soul, wasn't perfect. She never said she loved me. She never hugged me. She pushed me away, but she was amazing. So, like, how do I feel about having resentment against a woman who's passed away? And now I feel guilty for for having a resentment when she was self-sacrificing, but she also had her own stuff. So being willing to look at everything in your closet, those skeletons in your closet, even though some of them you're like, I don't like knowing that.
yeah,
I don't like to say that my mother, you know, impacted me very negatively in many ways, even though she was incredible in so many others and so self-sacrificing. But the fact is, it's what happened. I think when you're willing to look at it, analyze it, breathe through it, and then allow it to go, transmute it or alchemize it, that's where you're going to find the freedom. In my case, and maybe because I'm doing Gaia Goddess, I just had a lot of it. I mean, overwhelming pieces. Like my therapist at the time, because I threw a book down, I started writing. I have 163 pages on a book. And you know how you change therapists, you've got to start your story all over again. And unfortunately, when I left my marriage, all the therapists stayed with him, and the dog and everything else. So I had to go get a therapist for the tail end of my divorce. And I'm clairaudient. So I heard, you're probably need to talk to somebody at this point. And so I walked into her office, and she's also an astrologer and a past life regressionist. So it's totally up my alley, right? Somebody who speaks the talk, but also is connected to the spirit realms. And I said, I really don't want to go into my history. Would you be willing to read this? Because it's all here. And she's like, sure. And the next time I came in, she had finished it. And she said, I couldn't put it down. And she also said, and I said, well, isn't that kind of like most people's story? She's like, no, most people don't go through all of that. No, that's not most people's story. And I wasn't even sure. I was like, isn't that just the human condition? But it's okay. I don't get an award for having more crap to transmute than the next person. I really wouldn't want that award, honestly. It's not bigger, better, anything. It's just what I chose as a soul.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Sometimes I feel the same with my life. I'm like, when are we going to be done? But that's part of it. So
yeah, and sometimes not asking that question, right? Because how many times do I want to say, am I almost at the finish line? And the more I ask that question, the more I hear, how about there is no finish line? How about it's just life, and you just go through it as you go through it, and the need to know needs to go away.
oh my God, that is one of the most crippling things. And so how do you support people through that when they're in the midst of it and they're having a hard time letting go and they want to know all the answers, and how do you surrender in those moments?
Well, if I'm supporting someone else, then I really just teach. I think that's why I had to go through everything I went through. So if I'm supporting someone else, I can story tell. I can tell them everything that happened to me and how I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, it's not like I'm your guru, but hey, look at these keys I'm dangling in front of you. Like these are some of the tools I used. So I developed my intuition, and I learned to trust it. And I also have a practice of spiritual hygiene. And I also, towards the end, recently got really good at setting boundaries. I couldn't do that until I learned to love myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't just spiritually bypass, which again, a lot of people don't know what does spiritually bypass mean. It's a term we use, Lexy, you and I, but maybe not everyone who listens in. So one of my coaches taught me, you can't assume everybody knows what you are. So I'm going to answer. Spiritually bypass means I'm a spiritual being, so therefore I can forgive. I'm a spiritual being, so I'm just all of this stuff that happened to me, my child, bippity boppity boo, it's gone. No, I don't care how evolved you are.
No.
There are steps. There are steps that you must take and work to do, and you show up every day doing it. And that's how you get through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy. And I want to say the word uncomfortable is an understatement. I don't want to say excruciating, painful, because you'll all run for the hills. Everybody can do it, but it's not fun.
No.
But it can be fun at the end, because you're like, wow, look what I just did. I took little old me, was afraid of her own shadow. We literally played it small, disempowered herself and all of that. And look what I came out of the ashes, and I'm like, goddess extraordinaire. And I don't mean this about myself. I mean about the business, about every woman. Goddess extraordinaire that has the magic gifts, that can step into her glory and own her life and her freedom. And that doesn't come without having to do the work.
100%.
You're not born that way. That's what makes this ride interesting.
Yes. And remembering that every single human has something, and to know that you're not alone in whatever you're experiencing, and that it doesn't make you any less or any different or anything by like actually looking at the things you've been through and moving through them. I think it's just so important to liberate yourself in that way, to go through it and to not just keep hiding it and pushing it down.
And people will, resist, and people will avoid, because change is very scary to some.
Mm-hmm.
And they get there, and that when they get there,
yes, they do. And
you have to surrender the need for them to choose differently.
Yeah, that was a hard journey for me as well. Like, because when you start this work, you're like, especially your family,
right?
You're like, you need this. Yeah, that's a hard one. But I want to segue back into, you were talking about basically women and their power. And I'd love for you to explain how feminine and her power, this goddess energy, is different than like the masculine version of power. So what does that look like for a woman to be in her power?
Well, okay, so let's clarify, we are all masculine and feminine. And there are times when it serves me to step more into masculine aspects, which could be structure, numbers, protection, but if you're talking about the misconception of what power was in a third dimensional reality space where we were told power, money, status, own the world, rule the world. Many men think today, I recently answered a question from a male actor. I was a guest on the Spirited Actors podcast, and he said, I was raised in a family that told the men that they were only as successful as the money they had in the bank. And I know very successful men that feel incompetent and insecure about themselves because they lack self-worth, but they also compare themselves to people who have more. So I know a man whose like idol is Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, because they're billionaires. I mean, the wealthiest people on the planet. And if that's what you're measuring up to, you're never going to be happy. So that power of like, I can overpower someone, I can take advantage of someone, I can win in court because I know how to intimidate, I know how to, go behind the scenes and get the right lawyers or whatever. That abusive power is one thing. And I think that's why so many of us have resistance to stepping into the idea of being in our power, because maybe there was a time when power had a negative connotation. And, so for me, what does divine power mean, feminine power look like? Well, it's knowing that you, as an individual, as a soul, as an aspect of the creator, can manifest anything with the right reasons behind. If your reason for manifesting a Lamborghini is that you don't feel worthy and good enough about yourself, so you need to have that Lamborghini to prove, well, the universe is going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm smelling a lie right now. I will not be in support of that. I know a woman, for instance, who kept trying to get a business off the ground, business upon business upon business. But she believed in her heart of hearts that she wasn't worthy if she didn't have her own business. And as great an idea as this business none of them took off because she was coming from a lie. So you have to understand that manifestation has to be in alignment with your truth, the truth of who you be. And if you are aligned to your truth, for instance, Lexy, I'm here to do such and such. I have this passion to help women, or I have this passion to help men, or I have this passion to help the earth, and I want to do it in these ways. I believe you will. That is your power, because you're aligned to your mission, you're aligned to your truth, your worth, your ability, your confidence, and then you will do it. And not only do it, but like it'll almost just flow to you. That's powerful, right? Forget about making it hard. It just becomes easy. It becomes effortless. It's just like, okay, God, universe, you want this for me? I have this lawsuit that I don't want to do it anymore, but the universe keeps calling me to stand up, not roll over, stand up to the masculine. And I have to do it, but I can forgive. While somebody's stabbing you in the back, you can still forgive. Do you know what I mean? And that's mastery, and that's power, because I'm not playing from reactivity anymore and from my past and my history. I'm playing from the knowing that I can do this, and I will do this, and I am doing this, and there's no limit.
It's truly limitless, and that's the fun. I think the feminine is that, like, the tapping into that spiritual nature, and how so much is possible in such an easeful way. And in that like flow and grace, well, not all grace, it's also just like every emotion, expressing it all and feeling it all. And you like stepping into this, I know that's heavily connected to your intuition, because if you don't believe in yourself and trust that you're being guided and that you know which step to take next because your intuition is guiding you, then you won't get anywhere. So how have you developed that relationship with your intuition?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you for asking. I started early on with a body of work called Access Consciousness, and it was a really good foundation for me. And while I don't facilitate or take their courses anymore, it's still very much in my field. It's still very much a part of my toolbox. And what I liked about the foundation was it was basically, everything already. And we're all knowing already. And to drop out of your head. So one of the statements I love they have is, if you're thinking you're stinking, just know. And question creates awareness. So if I douse with a pendulum and I want to know, why did my back go out? I know that I can put down oral exposure, physical exposure, too much exercise, energetic attack, all of the things. And as I'm asking questions that could fill out this dowsing chart is a piece of paper where you make segments, and then the pendulum can swing to the segments that apply, that resonate. And what moves the pendulum is your higher self. It is a vibration of your higher self. Now, I have a lot of intuitive friends that just get the answers. I have intuitive friends that see spirits. I'm clairaudient. So me asking a question helps, and using a pendulum, because it gets me out of my head. And it also is just like, this is fun. It feels like play to me. And the more I can keep things, and the more playful I keep life and work, also the more powerful I become, because the universe wants me to play and be like a child, innocent and having fun. So I've used a lot of pendulum work, but I'll also just muscle test. I mean, I had a guest coming to my house and I didn't know what kind of beer he drank. And there were 30 types of beer on the shelf. And I just went, all right, I'm tapping into his energy. And my hand stopped in front of Peroni. I grabbed the Peroni. I stuck it in the refrigerator. He came to the house and he opens up the refrigerator. He goes, Maria, how did you know this is my favorite beer? and through time and through exercise, and I teach Intuition 101, and I just taught that virtual sanctuary. You start little by little. You don't start asking a big question like, should I invest in crypto? Especially if you have fear around anything. You start little by little, and you learn it's like a muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And the more you trust it, the stronger it gets. And it is your internal compass. But I love question creates awareness, and also to understand what limits our intuition, fear, confusion. You want to do it in a clean space. You want to connect in quiet. You do not want to be in your head stressed out. You will not hear a thing. You got to clear the channel. Mm-hmm. And so for me, breath work has been amazing, because oftentimes I'll be breathing, maybe have a couple little releases, and then all of a sudden I'm flooded with messages. And and that's without me going in and asking questions. I also consult the Akashic Records for myself and others. The Akashic Records is like a book of life. It sort of exists on a dimension very high, where records of every lifetime you've ever had as a soul. And it's really kind of magical, because our businesses have records. And if it is aligned for us to consult them and find out information, we can get information there. And I've also rewritten some contracts there that have really helped me. So we can go back in and say, I no longer choose to experience pain or fear through this situation. I sign it, and it sort of like magically transforms the experience for me as well. So we can we're multidimensional beings, and we can work on multidimensional levels, is just what I'm saying.
I agree. There's so many tools and fun ways to tap into your intuition. And I remember when I was in, I think, high school, one of my friends was really intuitive, and I always went to her, and I didn't realize that I as well had an intuition. And so I was so dependent on her for everything, until someone taught me like, oh wait, you have one too. And I was mind blown. And I like what you said too about when you can do it in ways that there's no pressure, you really start to develop that trust. So like picking out the beer, like I have these like intuitive games that you can play, and it brings in that element of like, oh, I actually get to try this out without the pressure. And even if I get it wrong, it doesn't matter. And develop this tool because it's hands down the best tool you can ever have in your life, I think.
Yeah. And like you said, it doesn't have to be like, what would be the big deal if I got the beer that he doesn't drink? What would be the, if I go into a crystal store, I was on a trip in Arkansas at a crystal mine, and I was going to buy something from the store, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to try to figure out what crystal I need next. Let me just muscle test. And my hand led me to a box, and inside the box was a beaded of amethyst, and it's in my bedroom right now. And like, I don't wear beaded necklaces, and I'm really, you really want me to have this? I took it out of the box, and I'm walking around the store with it, and everybody's like, oh my God, that necklace. And oh my God, that necklace. And I'm like, all right, I get it. I get it. I don't know. Somehow you want me to have this necklace, so I'll get the necklace. But, you have to be willing to like listen to it.
And fuck up, because like you're gonna get it wrong. And that's part of it. It's like, oh, like, like, oh, I thought this was going to.
I want to say there's no right or wrong. And I want to say not to ever look I'm sorry to interrupt you, but don't ever look for where you're getting it wrong, because I'm going to tell you a secret. There is no wrong. If you think you got a wrong answer, there's always a plausible reason. Oftentimes, the reason why you don't get the truth is because the question you asked was confusing or wrong, or you had a vested interest. So the pendulum was picking up your thought wave, not your higher self. And so you have to, and you also can put truth around a situation and around your pendulum, and also make sure you never ask, because somebody else is standing there listening to you ask, because it'll also pick up on their thought. So it's fun to figure out if you think you got an answer that wasn't the right answer, and I put it in quotes because there is no such thing as right or wrong, then be like, let me try asking that question a different way. And then you're like, of course, I wasn't asking the question right. Question is so important.
That's such a good point, because I mean, no matter what happens, either way, like let's say you make a decision that you thought was your intuition and it took you down a path that you weren't looking to go down, like there's always going to be something on that path as well. And I'd love for you to clarify for people. Can you give us an example? Because I've had this happen to me so many times. You're right, where you ask it the question the wrong way and you get the wrong answer. So what's an example? Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you a perfect example. I have a friend who's spiritual, and she had another friend, and we were hiking, and we came across a very rare orchid that had been appearing to me, and sort of like I was in communication with it. And so they were telling me, you always ask permission of a plant. And yes, plants have consciousness and you can hear them. And I've definitely not been an herbalist in this life, but others. So I've been connecting more and more to plants, and I'm using them. So I wanted to forage this particular plant. And I said, hey, let's all ask how many we may have, because she's saying, yes, forage me. And so there's some medicine I need for her and the women I'm going to serve. Gaia is going to serve. So one woman asked, the other woman asked, and I asked, and we got different numbers. And then we realized the reason why we got different numbers was because the one woman asked, she asked, how many may I forage? The other woman asked, how many may I forage? And I asked, how many may we forage? And if you added all the numbers up, they equaled my number. And they wanted to go directly to wrong.
Yeah.
They wanted to, no, that's too many. No, I didn't get that answer. And I didn't make them wrong either. You got it. We are so programmed to make people wrong, or to look for the wrong, or we must be wrong, and I can't trust me, and I can't trust my intuition, that we go there so fast. So I'm saying you can never be wrong. Your intuition's never going to lie to you. And if you get something that seems like a wrong answer, you've just not asked the question or used the tool correctly. But your intuition is spot. And maybe there's some things that are not for your highest good to ask, like what's the lottery number that I can have to win? Does the universe really want you to have $120 million right now? No, because guess what? If you got that, you wouldn't go through your journey that was going to help so many people. So maybe that's why you're not the one to win the lottery, because you would have been like, oh, I can just retire now and not do all of that other book writing and movie producing and all the other things I wanted to do on this life journey.
I think it is just like the craziest concept that the intuition is always right. It's like it's always so powerful and guiding us on the best path. So it's my favorite. And I want to segue into your relationship with Gaia. And for those who don't know what that is, explaining what that is and how you've developed that.
Well, many, many years ago, the name Gaia Goddess just came to me, and I thought I was doing active where, I couldn't hold the vision that I'm holding now because I was a different person back then. And I didn't have confidence. I didn't have self-love. I was still in a very limiting relationship, and so on and so forth. So Gaia gave me the name. So I didn't know at the time, though. I knew Gaia is Greek for earth, and I'm Greek, so I feel a good connection to that name. But I knew what goddess meant, but I didn't know there's actually a Gaia goddess, and she is the spirit of the earth. And so I thought it's just being fancy and using alliteration. I was like, oh, it's got a ring to it. I like that name. And then little by little, Gaia started talking to me, coming to me, and playing and giving me messages from other people. So listen to this. I did branding. And I'm thinking, I'm very like, oh my God, I've never done branding before. How do I pick colors of the earth? I don't know. Oh, I know. Ocean blue, forest green, terracotta, and some other color that reminds me of the earth. And I started a branding book with those colors. And Gaia, the spirit of the earth, visited a friend of mine who's very psychic and goes into the records as well. It's just like, tell Maria to visit the branding colors again. I mean, she's going to be successful no matter what colors, but I want her to have fun.
Do you want to be a part of an extraordinary trip of a lifetime where you'll be surrounded by open-minded, fun, and inspiring humans from around the world? You'll be in a space that is so safe you can express all of you, not have to hide or hold back the tears or the weird accents you love to do. The amount of unconditional love you will feel will make you feel unstoppable. You'll be in a tropical paradise surrounded by beauty in the Balinese jungle. Every day you'll eat delicious, healthy meals cooked by a local chef, and instead of cleaning up after, you'll head to the glass sauna and relax. You love growing and are ready to leap into the unknown and connect deeper to your spirituality. At the end of the week, you'll leave feeling like the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders. You'll be smiling ear to ear and feel as light as a feather. I will take care of all of your needs for a week at the all-inclusive Alive to Enjoy retreat this December 2nd through 10th. You can book a call with me, Lexy, at alivetoenjoy.com/retreats. And I swear this will be hands down the best way to end 2023. All genders are welcome and all people who are here to make this world a better and brighter place.
So we went into this whole Pantone in the records, opened it up on the computer, and she says to me, I align more with that little powdery peach pink. And we need a red, because the red string that weaves us all through our wombs, because we menstruate, and Gaia is feminine and she is a womb, right? We're connected to her. And I'm like, can't be red, pink and red clash. I go with burgundy. And Gaia's like, Maria's right. She's very visually trained. I am a very visual person. And so we picked Gaia Berry Cream, Pink Femme, and Girly Girl Pink. And then we picked our brand luster. And so I was like, it's not gold, it's not silver, it's not platinum, it's rose gold. And how do you make rose gold? Is you take gold and you combine copper which is so good for us, right? Copper, and it becomes a pinkish gold. And Gaia loved that. She's all about not luxury like people can't afford her, but spiritual luxury in a way that everything's pretty and everything's just detailed. And she's very particular, and that's good because I am too. So she picked the perfect person to channel through. She has a playful energy, and there's other words for the earth. So you have Pachamama, and I don't know all of the ones from Africa. Pachamama, Mother Earth, whatever. They all have their own frequency and vibration. When I sing and play an instrument and the energy comes through me of the earth, sometimes it's actually very heavy. It's mourning. It's like going through what humanity is going through. But Gaia Goddess, as a business partner, she's really fun, playful. And she keeps reminding me that she wants me to have fun. And one of our sweatshirts say fun, fun, fun across the front. And on the back, it's goddess vibes with lips. It's really fun. And there's so many fun aspects of the business. So I turn to her sometimes for answers about different things, and probably don't go into the records as much as she would like me to. But that doesn't mean she doesn't come through me and the teammates. Like, I think she's just flowing through the whole business. It's an ancient contract, I've been told. This is really out there as far as conversations, but I'm just going to claim it.
About it here. Real. It's amazing because so many people want to learn more about these things, and not enough people are so scared to talk about it, right? It's too out there. These things are really like, when I first was introduced to this, I was like, what? Well, obviously there was a bit of resistance, but then once I was like, if they're this into it, let me just check. And then it's so cool, like the resources we have. So
yeah. And I've had people, I'm willing to be weird, controversial. Like, I've had people say, could you be any more weird? And I'm like, yes.
yes. Well,
You have not seen the half of it. I could be as weird but I also can be very practical and intellectual and rooted. And, I'm not up in the ethers all day long.
Yeah.
I choose to bridge the third dimension with the spirit realms. I choose to be all that I am, because I'm not just a physical body. I am a spirit. And so guess what? As a spirit, I have access to other things that most people don't know even exist, and will learn quickly.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a special gift to merge the two. And that's my favorite combination personally, because there's so much up there, but then I also can't connect with someone when they're just up in space. So the combo of the two is so yum to my soul.
Yeah, I think you have to have both. You've come to have a human experience. You can't root and manifest it if you're not, on the planet. And for so much of my life, I was out of my body because of the trauma. So now I feel more than ever really rooted, but open up here. So like, it's in balance. And I'm also balanced between my masculine and feminine. I didn't want the masculine before because it was so scary, but I have to be. I can't bring this business and not know how to set a boundary, look at financials, or have structure and foundation.
I feel
not my favorite stuff to do, but I've got to do it.
Yes. Balance in every area, right? But I want to talk about the womb, because I feel like that's something that's really exciting for a lot of people too, and your connection, and how the womb of the earth and all these yummy things, because there's so much shame around our own wombs and our own, yonis and that whole thing. So yes.
Yeah. Well, I love talking about, I didn't know about what a yoni steam was until one of my records, Gaia said, you'll be doing it with women. And I'm like, what's that? 3 days later, I'm in Montana with Guru Jagat at a Rama Institute. And who does she bring in but Jaguar? And she's steaming all our yonis. And I got chills just talking to this woman who's such a powerful portal. Our wombs, we've been disempowered through our wombs. If you've read the book Vagina by Naomi Wolf, it's such a beautiful, so well written, and explained how it's happened, why it's happened, and what we can do about it. Why are yoni steams collective when we steam our yoni, what are we doing? We're clearing our own abuse. You know, whether I was abused in this lifetime or not, you're in a woman, in a woman's body, there's an element of something that needs to be cleared. So the yoni steams are a beautiful ritual for that. And doing them in circles, I feel even more powerful. It's a collective prayer to our yonis and to the womb of like, thank you so much for this powerful portal of creation. Not only do we create life through there, but it is one of our creative centers. We birth our projects, we birth our businesses, we birth children through our wombs. Our wombs are so powerful. Our sexual energy, so powerful. And to harness that and use that for the light, for creation is another powerful practice. So I feel like being in touch with your power in that center and being in balance in that center and allowing yourself to flow and be open and receive, give and receive sexually, receive abundance. We have to be in balance. That's also an energy of the womb sacral space, is giving and receiving. And as women, my mother was a martyr. My mother gave, never received a thing, not even a compliment. She had a hard time. She was vain. She was beautiful. She loved her looks, but, she had a hard time receiving. And, I didn't want to receive love most of my life because it didn't feel safe. And now I've, through the 8-day David Elliott at Omega breathwork facilitators that I just took, one of my intentions, I had a couple, was to really open up, because I do want to attract a divine masculine partner. And I do feel that the partnership will, and even the sexuality has, when women and men come together, there's a power that they have together that becomes like, it's like, Jesus wasn't Jesus until he met Mary, the chalice and the womb. And I've had plant journeys where I've been told, you are the chalice. Now, I'm not claiming I'm the only chalice on the planet. You are the chalice, and you're like Mary Magdalene, like Mary, you're going to have your Jesus. And I'm like, and G was the first thing I saw, my first time ever doing plant medicine. And so I think there's a lot of clearing, a lot of healing, and that we do it together as women, I think is so beautiful. And I have this design in mind, because every time I do a yoni steam, my robe or my towel or whatever dips into the mixture, and it's like a tea stain. And then I ruin my robe and I ruin my towels, and I'm like, this stinks. So I'm gonna, hopefully nobody steals this idea, but go ahead, it's yours if you want it. I do want to make these waterproof yoni steam skirts that drawstring. And I also want to design the ceramic bowls that have the person's astrological chart embedded, their energy of the day that they were born embedded in their yoni steam pot. And I think that would be so incredible. Like, just either they could make it themselves and then get an artist to paint it or engrave it or whatever. So that's something I'd like to offer as a product down the road on Gaia's platform.
Whoa, I love that. I would definitely buy both of those, and just like a comfortable seat too, because that has also been a problem, finding the right position. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you some different opinions about the seat. So sometimes I've used yoga blocks stacked up against a wall and then kind of put the bowl at the base. Jaguar feels like, if you use a bowl, then you can get down over it and you can move and open up. If you're sitting on a pot, like a toilet seat, and you put it inside the toilet basin and then you sit, it's the easiest way to do it, but your legs are together. You can't, lift one, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I get it works regardless. I think it's all about intention, get some of the steam up. But sometimes I do, once it cools off, I do kind of want to move around over it. And I don't know that solution has been solved quite yet. But I will say the block works kind of nicely because it props you up, but then you can, you're supported, and then you can open up around it. So try that one next time. Just a yoga block up against the wall and the bowl in front of it.
Ooh, okay.
It's important not to spurn ourselves though, right?
Yeah, definitely important for that. Oh, that's so painful when that happens. But I also want to talk about your self-love initiative. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you. Well, we started a Facebook group. It's a private group. It's called Gaia's Embrace. And it was really something I had in my heart to do for a while. But when I was at Omega, I found a self-love journal called Good Morning, I Love You. And you're supposed to start the day with Good morning, I love you, Maria, and then do a little journal prompt about love. And then the evening gratitude. And these energies of love and gratitude in the morning and at night really do shift us if we make it a practice. And what I know about, because we're fresh in the morning, we're starting the day in love, and we're really literally rewiring our brain. And it's not all I'm using on that Facebook group, but it's a nice journal to have. And I think anybody doing the group can use this. And then additionally, we start sharing with each other like pieces that we wrote that we're proud of, or some of the struggles that we're having to embodying self-love. And self-love is a journey. I started working with self-love affirmations many years ago. But there was so much standing in the way of me embodying self-love that I hadn't healed yet. But I made some progress. And I won't say that you have to heal everything to begin working on it. No, absolutely not. You do it together, simultaneous. And I feel that the self-love is the ultimate healing. I mean, it's everything. It's everything, because when you love yourself, you don't care what people think about you. When you love yourself, you're like, so if I fail at this, that doesn't make me less than. Good on me for trying. Fear of failure, I mean, that kept me crippled for so many years. So when you love yourself, you will set a boundary. You won't accept less than from people around you. When you love yourself, you will take time off from work to balance, to breathe, to get a massage. When you love yourself, you don't need your kids to validate you. You can be a balanced mother who loves herself and show love.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you love yourself, you have upgraded yourself energetically, like you have no idea, exponentially. And mothers are energetically connected to their children. So anything you do to upgrade yourself automatically passes on to your kids. So what better commercial do you need as a mother, right? You'll do anything for your kids. Love yourself. Yeah. We put ourselves last as women. We always have, and I mean, not everyone, but let's say general sweeping statement. We as women have been trained as a mother, you give to your children, to your husband, to your sisters, to your family. And you're just, you're the last one on the totem pole, and you've got to be the first one on the totem pole. And I will just say, if for many reasons, but just consider this, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, you come in by yourself and you leave by yourself. And the first responsibility you have is to your own soul. So the biggest gift you can be is the gift of self-love. And when you come from that, you radiate out like a light, like a beacon. And people just say, oh my God, what happened to her? I want what she's having.
It's such a gift. I agree. It's changed my life, and I've seen it change so many people's lives. And we can also gain self-love through our relationships. And yet it's important to do some of that on your own. Definitely like a big part of that. And it's just never-ending benefits. So I think that everyone should practice that if they're not already.
And I think the problem with the practicing it is that most people don't know what it is. Yeah. They think it's narcissism. They think it's selfishness, which is negative, right? It has a negative connotation. And then, they don't know what it is and why it would be, or that they lack it. I had no idea what is self-love even? Who talked about it? When I was growing up, nobody. Nobody talked about it. Now we do. My children are growing up hearing about it. Future children, maybe it'll be part of a school curriculum one day. maybe parents will be more proactive in making sure that their kids are loving themselves and acknowledging themselves. Like my mother never said, pat yourself on the back for how far you've come, or look at what she did later in life, acknowledge me for being an amazing mother, because I gave my children what I did not get from her. And she saw that, and I did get that acknowledgement from her. Didn't need it. It was lovely having it, but didn't need it because I knew I was a great mom. And I also messed up a lot along the ways. There's an article, Confessions of a Helicopter Mom, that I wrote for Best Holistic Magazine. And I laughed thinking about how hard I pushed them, because I thought that if they went to the best school, I thought if they got the lead role in the play, I would be worthy. It was never about them. And it was about me. And so once I learned, when your children, they're your responsibility to like nurture them and make sure they don't die on your watch. And much past that, they have their own souls and their own soul's journey. So you cannot create in the life of another, and you got to give that on up. And once I started doing that, I became a more balanced parent, because I thought I was responsible for everything. And that was a big weight off my shoulders. So do I think my kids love themselves like I love myself right now? No. I haven't started. They haven't really begun the work. And 2 out of the 3 at least think I'm crazy. And that's okay, because they don't need their validation or approval. They love me, and they're happy that I want to help others, but they're not sure what all of this, how they're not the weird part of me. They like me to be a little less weird. I think there'll come a day though, where they'll see it all add up in their minds. And then they'll be like, wow, she really wasn't as weird as we thought she was. And she knew what she was doing. Because I do.
I agree. You're planting seeds no matter what. And I mean, I wasn't raised with any spirituality at all in my life, but I know like even some of my guy friends have really spiritual mothers. They, even if they still to this day don't tap in, they still have it in them, and it's still expanding them in so many ways. And so I think that's a gift in itself. And I'm really proud of you for releasing that responsibility and that helicopter parenting, because that's something I see so much too. And it's so easy to think you need to take responsibility for every single thing and control every single action. And that's the greatest gift ever to give to your kids.
Well, I did it a little late. I will tell you that. I will confess, but it doesn't matter, because what I learned through doing it, I can tell mothers now, not, you don't go down this. It's not a good path to go down. And also my kids will be the beneficiaries of that when they have their own children. So
yes, it's all working out divinely. And now, before we finish, I'd love to hear more about your free membership and your journey of creating this.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think I mentioned to you when we were talking before the podcast that I had worked at a homeless shelter for 5 years in Overtown, Miami, gifting Reiki and Reiki training to women and children. And I know that there are plenty of people on the planet that are in lack and haven't created abundance yet. So I believe everybody deserves healing. And while we will have a paid subscription membership, I will always offer something for free. The problem with free, and you probably heard this before, is there has to be an exchange. And oftentimes when you give something for free, people value it as such. So one of the things I struggle with is, how do I make sure that they get the gift that it is and reap the rewards of it? So in the free membership right now, we have a monthly virtual sanctuary. And what is that? That is an hour experience. It could be an hour of breath work. It could be an hour of Reiki. It could be an hour of hypnosis, not self-hypnosis, but hypnosis, or NLP, or emotional freedom technique, tapping, elemental reset with my friend from Body Intuitive. All of these modalities, these classes cost money. A one-on-one training in breath over Zoom My friend charges 200. I have a friend who charges 400 for Reiki because she's that good and she's that sought after. And so supply and demand. I know in psychics that charge $500. I know psychics that charge $100 and $250 an hour. All of these things cost money. And the women that lack the abundance to go out and sample, like, a chocolate sampler, like, I wonder what this tastes like. I wonder, with play and exploration, it won't be able to do that. So what I am doing is I'm offering these virtual sanctuaries so they can explore, what is shamanism? What's setting an altar? What is a yoni steam? What is this? What is that? And feel a sense of community and a sense of belonging and a part of this platform. Hey, with enough work with the free membership, they're going to change their abundance issues. And before you know it, they have all the money in the world to buy any level membership I'd want to market to them and any retreat that they'd want to go on. But you got to meet them where they are. In addition, we'll have self-love meditations, forgiveness meditations, inner child, like different offerings, one per month as well. So they'll have 2 solid pieces of content. They'll be able to go onto the website, log in, see all of the virtual sanctuaries that have been filmed. Oh, I missed 10. I can go back and find out, what is cacao? Oh my God, I didn't know that it actually is like an antidepressant. Oh, I can get off my antidepressants if I start drinking this. Intuition 101. How do I work with the pendulum? So they've got all of that as their content library, plus gifts. I have this idea, this vision of they're opening up an email and this virtual box comes out with a bow that unravels and the lid comes off and surprise, you have another yoga session for heart opening in your content library. So I want to keep surprising all levels of membership. I also see down the road like little coin system where there's like a pink Gaia piggy bank and then like sort of a point system. So for those that do certain things, they get these rewards points or whatever we want, a Gaia coin, we would probably call it. That's what we have. We have a free membership right now and it's available. And in time, then we have these wonderful medium tier membership coming in a couple of months, probably around December. Our Instagram, it has a lot of great pieces of information on consciousness, on self-love, on setting boundaries, inspirational content, and usable, even pendulum, how to program a pendulum. So how to sage, the hand positions for Reiki. So I'm always putting content up there that are snackable, small pieces of content that the women can use. And every Monday I do a mantra with a sound bowl. I have alchemy bowls and I also have done sound baths. So I always every Monday. So they have access to that too. Everything is energy and vibration. So literally just listening to a 2-minute affirmation with sound bowl can lift you, can shift. And it's all there on Instagram and in our library and more to come. And you can find it on GaiaGoddessLifestyle.com. And you can find the Instagram, Gaia Goddess Lifestyle. And we also have podcasts. So on Apple and Spotify and all the other platforms. So, we will also have I think we'll have an Instagram page soon for just podcasts because as you know, they're just stacking up and there's just such great information on during the conversations.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So cool. And I love that you're including that free element because I find the self-help development world is it's like a hierarchy and like there's coaches that charge 100K, 10K, and it's like it's unreachable for most people and it's not fair because the whole essence of this work is to give. So I think that is like so inspiring and so magical that you are bringing this in the world like this.
Thank you so much. I love the journey I've had so far with this business, and I love what I know it can do and will do, and I feel so honored, really honored, like that I chose this and that I'm open to doing it. I have the resources also to do it and the time, like it all aligned. And I don't take that for granted. I really don't. I feel it's like an incredible honor to usher this through. And with the people like yourself and everybody I'm meeting through podcasts and creating content and doing retreats, it's like I've just met the most incredible group of people and souls. And it's just like, wow, this is my life.
So good. And I was going to ask the one last question of the podcast, which is, what is one of your favorite, most romantic moments of your life?
Well, I'm not going to say it was necessarily romantic, although I wish it was. I have a podcast about a miracle that actually happened to me. I was told I would get a confirmation from spirit that I've been making the right choices with my business. This particular weekend, I was hosting women up at my house. All of them were healers, but we were kind of doing a practice run on a retreat. And at the end of the day, the conversation was, are we going to see a rainbow when we go back to Maria's house? And we get up to Hopkins Inn in Connecticut, just below my house. And there's this magical rainbow that you have never seen the likes of. It is so vibrant, feels like you could just hug it. And the energy of this area with the indigenous tribe that ran it, like that lived in it, is very healing. And so everybody's out. They get out of their cars. The cars are pulled over. People are walking around. Everybody's taking a picture. It's like this. Oh my God, it's a miracle. Oh my God, this is incredible. And at this moment where I'm just taking it all in, I notice there's a hawk circling. And if you look up hawk is a messenger of spirit. I see them all the time at my house, but this one was circling over this very handsome man. And it wasn't romantic. I wish it was. This man comes over to me with a hawk above his head. And he says to me, do you like the rainbow? And I'm like, I don't quite know how to answer because he's so handsome. Like, I was a little flabbergasted. I'm like, oh yeah. So, oh my God, it's so amazing. Like, I've never, and he just cuts me off and goes, because I made it for you. And he walks away, like, flips his hair. And I'm like, where are you going? But like that message was not coming from him. And I get back in my car, my truck, who's, by the way, her name is Lola. And my comedy coach, Sheila, said, do you know who that was? And I said, who? And she said, Ethan Hawke. And then Ethan Hawke, with a hawk above his head, messenger of spirit, says, do you like the rainbow? I made it for you. 3 weeks later, I'm in this living room where I'm sitting now. And we're talking about how did all these people come together? Because Lydia knew Megwin, and Megwin brought this one and that one. And it turns out that we had been 5 years earlier at this space called the V Club, which isn't open anymore. And you know what V stands for, the womb. And I had done a vision board. And I said, oh my God, I did a vision board that New Year's. Like, I had just left my life, my marriage. I was at the V Club making a vision board. What else do you do when you're single and don't know what your life is doing? You know what I mean? And I get there and I'm like, let me go get it for you. And I bring it out. And my dear friend Esther yells out, Maria, do you know who that is on your board? And I'm like, that handsome guy? No. She says, that's Ethan Hawke. Okay. On the board, along with Ethan, who I didn't know was Ethan, just handsome. Let's just call him handsome, was pictures of women in circles with their arms around. I hadn't the vision yet for the business. Performing miracles was one banner. Another one was beyond purpose. Another one was one night stand Q&A, because guess what? I hadn't had sex. Like I hadn't been in my sensuality for years and years and years. And I just wanted to awaken and connect. And there were other banners and pictures of this very sexy, sensual woman just oozing like pheromones. And I was like, I want to be her. And I didn't know what in the back. I had at the back of the vision board, the other side of the poster board, I put quadrants and I listed what I wanted to manifest. I had to send you when we're done, you'll give me your phone number. I'll send you the picture of my vision board and the meme my friend made of that of that a moment with Ethan. And my first solo podcast that's just about to go up is telling that story. And that is the story of synchronicity. Oh, really? Explain this. How could this happen? And that was a confirmation the spirit realm was giving me, was like, forge forward, sister, because we just made a rainbow for you to show you how powerful we are, and that we see you, and that we support you, and that you are a magic maker, and also if you look up a rainbow, it is a bridge portal. And I was told the Gaia goddess serves as a bridge to the fifth dimension, because when the masculine, divine feminine are in perfect balance, that's when we ascend. So I'm like, oh, I get it. It's so rich, right?
Yeah, like so many elements in that. I love those stories. They're so fun.
No kidding. And the numerology, me and Kevin see every day, and other things that have happened. I could just write a book on the synchronicities around this business alone, and it would just be so much fun. Maybe I will one day.
That's
Thank you for asking me that question, because as you know, that is my biggest, could have been a romantic moment, but it was better.
Truly. Oh my God. I mean, it was kind of romantic with the spirit world. And
Wait till Ethan Hawke listens to my podcast, sees my meme, and says, who is this woman who had me on her, and the picture of my vision board? Like, I think we're going to have to meet one day. Not romantically, he's married, but just be like, thank you for allowing to come through you. You have the perfect last name, Ethan.
Oh, wow. So good. Yay. Well, I cannot wait to see how everything flourishes with this business. And everyone, definitely check out her free membership and the next one to come as well. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Gosh, I loved it. I loved your conversation. Went every which way, but it was perfect. Thank you so much for having me.
You made it to the end of the episode, so now it's time for our snuggly heart breath of the day. Place a hand or both hands, if it's safe to do so, over your heart and take a big breath into your heart center. Open your mouth and let it go. I'm so grateful to have shared this time with you. If you enjoyed this convo, please share with your besties and your fam. And if you're a visual person like me, fly over to YouTube and watch the video. If you want to do a random act of kindness today, please leave a 5-star review so more people in the world can get their heart snuggled. You're helping tremendously when you do this, so thank you so much. And as a gift for doing so, I'll give you my Soften Your Heart Medi that feels like an exhale and a hug from within. When you leave a review and email me the screenshot to heartsnuggles@alivetoenjoy.com, you can also find the email in the show notes and you'll get the free meditation. Sending you the warmest, comfiest hug and lots of unexpected blessings your way. Remember that every single person just wants to be loved. So how can you be loved today?